Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Jackson County Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, October 22nd. We will open our meeting up. And with us today, Don Schwenker, Lynn Flagel, myself, Mike Steinis, are your county supervisors. Lisa Smith, our county auditor.
Good morning.
Is here. Good morning. And Bjorn is IT is available here with us today. Luann, our executive assistant, is also with us today. Mary is here from the newspaper. And first on our agenda today is Jaden Shekel, our Jackson County engineer. Good morning.
Good morning. On the agenda is discussion on our fiscal year 25 destination lighting. So remember probably a year and a half ago, we applied for destination light funds for TSIP. We received it. Back in April, we received the funding agreement from the DOT for this project. That was all approved. So after that, we started putting together proposals and our cost estimate for the 5 intersections that we got funded for. Based on that, the cost estimate was below the bid threshold. Or the bid threshold is currently $120,000. So we were under that. So when we go through the funding agreement, there's a section as it relates to bid letting. Well, since we were under the bid threshold, this did not pertain to us, so created proposals and sent out quotes for these projects. Again, not because this was under the bid threshold, so this was just quotes. We'd have to go for bids. Got quotes back. They were even, the quotes we received were under what my estimate even was. And so that turned out well, sent to the DOT for concurrence on like awarding, and that's when they decided, well, you need to include, they asked me to send them a proposal. What'd you send out? So I sent it to them. Like, everything looks good, but you're missing the targeted small business requirements as part of the funding agreement. And I told them, well, that is the only article in there that states that is under the bid letting portion of the funding agreement. And this was not a bid letting. And they looked it over like, okay, that is true. That is their bad for missing it, but basically if we want to move forward with using the funds, that we should send it out again with that targeted small business verbiage in there. And it is what it is. So that is what is leading to the resolution for today to reject the quotes you received, and we will send out proposals again for the same project, only now we will have included the targeted small business verbiage that the DOT is reviewing and said seems sufficient now, but hope I explained that clear enough on everything. It's kind of frustrating, but I guess we want the money to use that they're providing us. We have to do as they say.
Play the game. Do we have a resolution number?
We hear 1075-10-22-2024.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 1075-10-22-2024 to again is to
Reject the quotes.
reject the quotes that we sent and to
So that way, this is basically taking formal action on the quotes we received, rather than just doing nothing.
so we have
with
to
it,
send
take
out
it
for new quotes basically. Yeah, we
Yeah.
send out for new.
Same thing, just one extra
Proceed.
paragraph.
Proceed. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
I can give an update on construction. Our 136th Street Day Labor Bridge, that deck was poured last week. So we'll break a beam on that today actually to see what it breaks at, but that one's, now that the deck is poured, won't take too much to wrap up. And they were supposed to be pouring this morning at 8 o'clock on 184th Avenue, but due to the rain, they're holding off until 10. But whether, who would have thought, can't get rain in 2 months, but the day we want to pour a bridge deck, that's when it decides it wants to rain.
Looks like it's gonna go north, but I hope it comes.
So, did I miss something?
Yeah. 10 o'clock, we get a chance.
That's right, all it takes to get rain around here is to pour a bridge deck.
Yeah, do I do that?
Where have you been?
Was 136 an easier bridge to do? Cause didn't,
Yes, that's only a 25-foot slab. This one is a 110-foot slab and contract bridge. Yeah, they're way not apples to apples. So of course it's got to do it on the lot more.
there's more rain down there.
I guess. So they'll pour today, most likely. It's just wait until 10 to see what the weather does.
Yeah.
But it should be pouring today, so.
Good news.
And then we did close 224th Street for the Dane River Bridge up there in the Butler Township. So that one is now under construction as well. And haven't started the third one yet, but probably soon after they finish once 136th Street is done, they'll probably move that crew and start that one. But we're moving along, I guess, in our bridge construction, and that's all of our projects, I guess, to finish the year.
Jane, what's our status on the brush and tree trimming that we started last year and was shut down?
So our contractor is now that we're after October 1st, he is allowed to start. He hasn't stated yet when he's going to be back in, but he has until March 31st of 2025, so this upcoming March, to get it done. But I would imagine he's gonna be, I just have a gut feeling it's gonna be December, January timeframe is when he'll be back, but haven't heard anything from him as far as a date yet.
Okay. We're still on the books for him though.
Yes, yep, and he did text me about something else earlier, a couple weeks ago, so yeah, he hasn't forgotten about us.
Appreciate it. I see the guys were touching up some of the washboards that we had. I appreciate that. I know
It is dry.
it is dry and it could be superficial, if you will, but at least makes some difference for a couple days.
Yeah, and if we
We'll be
do,
back shortly.
and if we do get some rain with it being that dry and us still doing some blading on the road, I mean, that rock is turning into powder. And, if we do get some rain, could get a little soft in some spots, and our guys are aware of that, and we'll touch it up if that occurs, but
Do the best we can.
it's not one thing, it's the other, so.
Yeah, so, yeah. I appreciate the update. Any questions for Jaden?
Nope.
Okay, thanks, Jaden. Have a good day. Are there any visitors or citizens either via Zoom or I don't see any present. I don't see any on Zoom. So we'll move on to Lisa, County Auditor. Good morning.
Good morning. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the October 15th, 2024 board proceedings as written by Auditor Smith and authorized publication in the official newspapers. So moved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the minutes of the October 15th, 2024 board proceedings and published in official newspaper. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carried.
Motion to approve and authorize the auditor's office to issue warrants in the publication of the claims listing in the amount of $510,705.98. So moved.
Second.
Motion second to approve the claims in the amount of $510,705.98 and noted that there was a bridge payment also included. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye opposed. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve a renewal of a Class C retail alcohol license to Alfred's Bar and Grill at Leisure Lake LLC at 21701 Hill Drive, Bernard, effective November 16th, 2024 through November 15th, 2025.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve and renew the Class C retail alcohol license to Alfred's Bar and Grill at Leisure Lake as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve resolution number 1076-10-22-2024, canceling an outstanding warrant in the Jackson County's Auditor's Office in the amount of $68.13.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the resolution 1076-10-22-2024 as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye opposed. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve resolution number 1077-10-22-2024, transferring $5,000 in appropriations from the Juvenile Probation Department to the Court Costs Ad Litem Attorney Fees Department. We've had another, we have nothing to do with these claims but pay the bill. This is an attorney representing somebody that the state of Iowa says we have to pay these bills, and this is another one that puts the budget over, so we're gonna borrow from a fund so we can make this check good.
Unknown expenses that we have.
This
Comes.
is an unfunded mandate. So moved.
Motion and a second to approve resolution 1077-10-22-2024 as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye opposed. Motion carried.
Motion needed to approve and authorize the publication of the fiscal year 2024 Jackson County Annual Financial Report in the county's official newspapers. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve and authorize the publication of the fiscal year 2024 Jackson County Annual Financial Report. All those in favor say aye. Aye opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
That's all that I have for the board today.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Luann?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Calendar for this week. This evening at 5 o'clock is a conservation board meeting at Hurstville. I don't think they have a Zoom option tonight. For any of you that want to go, I think Nin has been attending pretty regular. Also at 6 o'clock tonight is the Macocata River Watershed Management Authority's annual meeting in Monticello. For any of you that want to attend that is open to all of you. Wednesday, October 23rd at 9 a.m. is an IRIS meeting in Dubuque or by Zoom for NIN. And at 7 o'clock that night is the Jackson County EMS Association meeting at the Delaware Fire Department for any of you that want to go to that. Thursday, October 24th, you can cross out the Bellevue Leadership Committee that has been temporarily suspended. They don't have a new date for that. Then at 5:30 is a HACAP meeting by Zoom for Mike. On Sunday, I should say October 27th from 1 to 4 p.m. is Conservation's open house for their 20th anniversary and their new cave and woodland exhibit. That's out at the Hurstville Interpretive Center. Monday, October 28th at 4 p.m. is an Early Childhood Iowa Council meeting in DeWitt or by Zoom for NIN. At 6 o'clock that night is a Board of Adjustment meeting in the community room or by Zoom for any of you. And at 6:30 that night is the Sue Green HVDC Link Public Information and Input Session in Bellevue for any of you that want to attend that. I think Mike said he was going to go to that. Our next regular meeting will be Tuesday, October 29th at 9 a.m.
Okay, any questions for Luann?
That's all I have for you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any other commission reports or board proceedings that we'd like to mention at this time? Any news? Actually, had a waste authority meeting yesterday and everything is going well. The audit is still in process, so everything looks good. And we're moving forward and our employment status is healthy and actually it's looking good, so. Good
Hey,
report
audited
there.
by state auditors.
Tell you who's doing it. I don't know if it's a private sector or if that's he's,
I know they used to, but I guess
I don't know. He's supplying information that we needed. That they're all running pretty smooth, so. All three semis are up and running again and you got little quips in here and there and little things going on, but going as planned. No other business. We will take a short recess. We will reconvene at this time and Jack Willie and Lene Birkin, who is our coordinator of disability services, are joined here today and give us a report, an update, I guess. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, we're here to recap the October governing board meeting that we had yesterday. Jack and myself were able to attend in person. So the first thing that I suppose I should let you know is that we did get the ASO submitted on Friday.
They got
Lori got
submitted.
that. Yes, So now we wait again, to see if they are going to, be selected to do the presentation. They'll be notified on November 18th and 19th if they're gonna be doing the presentation. And then once, we find that out, the next step then will be December 30th for the date of when they find out if they are selected.
So the presentation's on the 18th or 19th, or that's when they'll find out?
That's when they find out. So the presentation, they'll have a 48-hour to 24-hour notice.
And when you say that, you're assuming Lori and
Lori and
and
May.
May.
Mhm.
It was quite a meeting yesterday, I hear. You listened in.
I did listen.
Your son told me it was rather frustrating for you. It was frustrating for us being there
Yes,
too.
it was. So the first thing that, David Farmer, he talked about the finances. So, the cuts have helped, so that's a good thing. But we're gonna have to continue to review the budget every month, to see if, we're gonna land, in the positive or the negative. So we're gonna have to keep monitoring that.
So I know they had made a request for more funding and none of that came through.
Not at this point.
So there's
And one
a
of the other
chance yet?
things that we talked about at great lengths, and we had somebody from the Department of Human Services on Zoom. And he made a kind of a short presentation, and one of the things that they told us is they wanted us to get rid of having a waiting list. And we're not sure that at this point, I mean, we didn't want the waiting list either,
Right.
but there's no funds to
A waiting
provide the
list for
services that they need right
specific
now.
services, or just a waiting list?
It's a waiting list for people who are, new to wanting services.
So it was,
That waiting list, isn't that about a $3 million problem that you guys are suffering from, or whatever, that gap that you still got it, but?
about, yeah. You never know how many people are out there and how many services they're gonna need. And who's gonna be able to provide those services is the big thing. And one of course, one of our biggest bills every month is from the Robert Young Center. And so it was a really frustrating meeting yesterday and actually pretty damn depressing.
You mean as far as what they want to cut for services?
With HHS, what they're continuing to request, but yet there seems to be some communication barriers there.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Lori has submitted letters and said that we were gonna need to, do these cuts. And, never got a response. So the governing board, approved the cuts. And then a couple weeks after the cuts were made, HHS came out with a letter that said that, all cuts have to be approved by HHS. And they have to have a 45-day notice. And have this letter with all these specifications in it. However, our cuts were approved and submitted prior to HHS making this decision that they
So
wanted to be
you
involved.
Lori tried to do that, but never got a response. So-
Correct.
That's
And
right.
their answer to that was, we
Yeah.
didn't get it, or we
So
didn't.
she put the letter together. They denied our cuts even though they've already been made. We went ahead and put together the letter of what all of our cuts are, and then, and laid out, that we looked at admin, we looked at training, we cut all those things first, because that was one thing that they came back and asked, and they said, why are we cutting services? Why aren't we cutting admin? Why aren't we cutting the training? Why aren't we cutting,
So Lori went through all of the cuts that we made and, highlighted those. We did highlight, we did cut administration, we did cut, anything that we could that wasn't related to services.
Correct.
But they still came back to us and said that
And that's where that communication piece, that they don't truly understand what what we're doing and what we've been involved in despite the letters that she sent. So she went ahead and put together the letter that they've requested. And then on the end of that, did put in a sentence about, is HHS gonna guarantee paying the bill if we run out of money? So they want us to not make these cuts, but we would rather make cuts than have a hard shut off and have no services, where we can be kind of selective on what services we're able to provide, this way.
So it's kind of mind boggling what you're saying here. Is it something that could be presented to, is Garcia still there, or can be presented to their board or to, I don't know where you present other than sending a letter. You can't get in front of somebody's face is what I'm saying and say, listen, this is what's happening. I want to see your response to it, you know,
Well,
I can send a
yeah,
letter out.
How do you do it?
You don't know what I'm thinking when I'm, you know.
But Lori does have a letter that they asked for some additional
request.
information. And she has that letter that she's sending to the Department of Health and Human Services. And maybe after that, when they see the explanation of all the things that we proposed, maybe there'll be a change. We don't know.
Is
We
there
don't know
such a
how
thing
they're
as requesting a hearing or something?
I was gonna say, an appeal, and the word appeal is coming to me. There's no
I mean,
appeal.
if you request a hearing to say,
Yeah.
this is our side of the story, what's yours? You know, why didn't you tell us that when we asked for it? Now we did what you wanted us to do, but now you say no. I get it.
Yeah, and the governing board kind of took the stance of, well, this was kind of, it's not in legislation, and this all happened prior to, this letter coming out from HHS, so it's been done. But we're just gonna go ahead and submit the letter that they're requesting
And the point I made yesterday was the fact that all of the services that we are currently providing are mandated through state legislation. I mean, they passed the bill that said you will provide these services. Now, with the cost of services and everything else, we can't afford to do it.
No, I mean, yeah, I hear you. I mean, it sounds like a vicious circle that, there.
So we're hoping once Lori gets the letter out to them and they review it, maybe they will give us an appeal hearing. I don't know. It's all up in the air right now.
It's just very frustrating because we all know these services are needed. And the state is saying they want to still provide them, but yet.
They don't want to help pay.
Yeah,
And the other
I don't
thing
know
is,
where they think it's gonna come from.
Maybe they should develop a department of unfunded mandates where they could kind of help address some of these issues.
well, another issue is that the jail meds and psychs are gonna be paid for by you.
Right.
And who
And that's
knows
gonna
what
just
the-
keep increasing.
Yeah, who knows how much that's gonna end up being, especially when you have a bigger jail and can hold more prisoners. It's really frustrating and we can't quite understand where they're coming from.
So we're just kind of taking things week by week, month by month, and gonna do what we can, provide the services that we can. Good thing is we do still have the Robert Young, they are providing, we had our co-responders, they served 12 kids and 9 adults in Jackson County in September. And their care coordinator services served 13 kids and 17 adults. And then our mobile crisis service served 4 adults. So we are still providing services, and the crisis services, I think, are the big thing that we need to make sure that we're able to keep and have available for people.
Sure.
And we'll just continue to do what we can and provide the best supports we can for people.
And another thing that we really are serious about is being able to provide children's services. Because we need to get to the kids.
Well, that to my, if I can remember, that never really was established to be sustainable in a children's service, all right? I mean, we never really did establish that service or have a.
Oh, the crisis services were one of the mandates that we had to provide for children.
Yeah, they did make some progress with the classroom clinic and step in.
Yeah.
And all those services to kind of get the services.
Well, they
for
took
those
the
kids
step
in
in
place.
program from the DCAT services though, right? I mean, that's where they took that from.
All I know is it's constantly changing and, there will be more.
Well, yeah, we appreciate all the good news, so.
We'll just
So
say
did we,
news.
so did
Just say
we.
news.
Just more, not.
You know, I guess you know, the whole board appreciates the effort that you and Lori and May are putting forward here and trying to make people understand, I guess, and I guess my thought is that, you know, do they assume that there's abuse going on with the program or some way, or are they making these cuts to?
So HHS, you know, of course, they're want to go to the districts. They're kind of don't want to put more funding into the regions, as my personal opinion. But with that being said, one of the things that they had told Lori in her meeting is that our region has a history of over budgeting and underspending. And because of that, they think that we're projecting inaccurately.
But when we budget for the services that were mandated to serve people. The problem is, a lot of those are services that they can't get staff to provide. And so that's why we haven't been able to spend all of the budgeted items, because there's no one to provide the services.
And then
And that's ongoing.
but this past fiscal year, we did, we
Yeah.
had the positions filled finally, and
Yeah.
that's why we did exceed the budget there. And then now this year, we were on track again with full staffing, full services. But now we've
You
got
can't
to
get the funding to pay for them.
but now we gotta go back to where we were when we didn't spend our full budget because we weren't fully staffed. We didn't have all the services in place. We were working on building these programs. And now we have to go back to that budget because that's how they historically see that. They don't see the full picture. So there's a lot of misunderstanding,
So,
miscommunication.
That's where I'm coming from, is a in-person, face-to-face hearing, whatever you wanna call it. You know, I don't know if you can express your emotions and feelings, and this is what happened in a letter. I just don't know if you can do that.
Correct.
So that's when I wanna look at you, I wanna see what you said, and I wanna see your reaction when I said it,
Yep.
you know, but
And
it's
have
like-
questions back and forth.
Yeah, question and answers.
Correct.
You know.
Yes.
I mean, you can email, you can letter all you want, but, you know, it's just time consuming and nothing is done, you know.
Right.
Well, I would assume that Lori would try to get some type of a hearing.
Yeah.
The man that was on Zoom wasn't too positive
No.
that something was gonna happen. I mean, and that really, and then of course, we all know Jim Irwin.
He's so quiet.
He got on his soapbox and Ken really had to kind of tie him down. Because we
Well, but
don't
he's trying
wanna
to
make
make a
him so
point too, you
mad.
know, the point is how loud do I have to speak to make you hear me, I guess, is Jim's point, my point. You know, he's trying to make a difference, but you know, I don't know.
But he, you know.
Yeah.
There's always a fine line.
Yes, there is a fine line.
Yeah.
So. That's our good news for you.
Okay, well, that.
Thank you very much.
Something to think about. Anyway, keep at it. We appreciate what you're doing. Keep at it if you can without being depressed and do the best we can. That's all we can do.
That's right.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
I know it'll be better than yesterday.
What was yesterday?
The
The
meeting.
meeting.
We had one too.
Thank you.
Did you have
It was
a
not answered.
John answer? Okay, so I guess at this point, we'll take another short recess. Okay, sorry for the interruption. We will reconvene at this time, and John Hanson from Midwest Construction Consultants has joined us with an update on the Law Center. Good morning, John.
Good morning. So right now, as far as what we had left on the occupancy permit was the intercoms, which have been repaired. The sinks pushed against the wall, which has been done. And the shutter, which has been repaired, and I tested it this morning because I wasn't gonna come in and talk to you. So, and they filed down the pass-through trays, so those are a lot better. And only other thing, was the training, and those have all been accomplished, which were listed on Delbert's thing, so I'd like to go ahead and just issue a letter. Get the occupancy permit. Andrew mentioned that he thought he might have a couple of lock position switches or DPSs, door position switches, which are a minor adjustment, and you're gonna have some of that as you use those doors, that you're gonna have to adjust those door position switches and lock position switches.
Well, yeah, we can't have a door that says it's locked and it's not locked, and if we got inmates in there, and so it's gotta work. You know, and that's what I was taken by his email, was that it says it's locked, but it's not locked.
No, it says it's not locked and it's locked. So those door position switches, I mean, if you have a door showing open, that's why you got your rovers walking around too, that's the door. But they need to be adjusted, but they're not gonna stay in adjustment till you utilize them doors some. I mean, you gotta be walking through them and closing them and opening them. So, I mean, it's something that can be under warranty, but on the other hand, it's a simple twist of a screw or something to adjust many times.
Okay, then let's get it done. Who is Stronghold or SGBT do it, or
Well, I
one's
gotta
blaming
have
the
a
other?
list of some sort. I don't have a list and I looked at the computer, I didn't see any indication that it was not. Well, nothing's locked right now.
Andrew, are you on?
I am, yeah. So I've got a list of the doors that aren't working. There are a few though that are showing the cell is locked and closed, even though the door is unlocked. But I do have a list of those.
So will you send that to John and all of us in an email?
Yeah, I'm gonna meet with them after the fact.
Well, let's just get it in an email so that way you can refer back to it.
I'd like to say, I really wanna get this occupancy permit. I wanna get that done and over with. But I think we're all a little hesitant, and Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, to do that until everything is complete.
So every time we have a lock position switch that's not working correctly, we're gonna shut the facility down.
I don't know that, John, but before it opens, it better damn well be working.
Yeah.
Before the thing is open, it better be working. If we know it doesn't work, if something comes up in the future, we fix it. That's maintenance. But if it ain't working before we open, that's a problem.
Yeah, well, we've been using it, so. But
Well, what I understand, the biggest fear is if I want to get the occupancy rating. I think everything that needs to be fixed on Douglas' report has been fixed. The fear is,
well,
You
I'm
don't-
not saying we
just let
don't
me
get,
finish. The fear is, after we get the rating and we can open up, we run into issues, you become harder to find. Who is the point of contact so we can trigger, what starts the warranty? When does that start? All that kind of stuff.
all the warranty is started already as of September 2nd, so.
Oh, so we're into our warranty already. We didn't
Yeah.
even know that. We haven't even I don't even think we've
I
accepted
got
the
final,
building.
I got final documents. When you get final occupancy, it's called substantial completion, which it's been completed. That was done August 15th. We had our occupancy permit on it. We started moving stuff in, so.
That's where I'm gonna have a little bit of a problem, because I don't understand how we can be using up our warranty time on the building we can't even occupy for a set purpose. We can't run it as a jail. We can't put a prisoner in there right now.
Are you using the HVAC system or is it off?
What the hell
I
are you
don't know what
talking
it-
about?
what that
I'm
is.
telling you right now, we can't put a prisoner in that jail
Yeah,
because we haven't got the rate, it hasn't passed yet. So how can we be burning warranties on a car we haven't even really been able to accept you to drive? That's my question.
Occupancy permit is usually, when the fire occupancy permit is issued, that's usually when your warranty starts. You're using the HVAC system to heat and cool the place. You're moving stuff in, and Delbert postponing for 30 days. How do I get it back on the contractor? I can check with the architect and stuff, but that's not typically the way it works.
See, our fear is we get our occupancy from Delbert. And then we run into issues.
And you've always been able to get a hold of me. Every time you've called me, I've answered the phone. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. But I don't disagree with Mike that those issues need to be addressed now. But I'm saying get the occupancy permit issued and let's address these things and get them up here and get those adjustments made right away so that we can get it done. But you'll have a contact list too, or Andrew will.
Well, I hope so, because just like we were talking a little bit before while we were waiting for Jeff to get here, talking about a squeaky floor that squeaks since they put it in. It's been there for months, but yet we've tried, and yet here we are,
money on that,
and it still squeaks.
I'm holding money on that.
There better be a hell of a refund if that's what we're gonna get.
No, I'm holding money till the squeak is repaired.
Okay, so,
I mean,
Andrew or Jeff, can you tell us how we feel about the occupancy permit? Are we gonna file for that?
I guess I would defer to Jeff on what he thinks is best.
So I mean, some of those issues, so the first thing that I'm thinking about, and you talked about the floor. If we get the occupancy, I mean, that's fine, we can have the occupancy, but we have to get the floor fixed before we can occupy the building. We're not gonna be able to have contractors up there working while jailers are trying to keep an eye on inmates. So that's something would have to be resolved before anybody moves in. So as far as it goes, we can have an occupancy rate, we can still do the stuff after the fact, but if we don't have an occupancy rate, we can still do stuff, it can still get done.
But the
Andrew,
point is, if we wait, I'm just gonna throw some weeks out there. I'm gonna throw 3 weeks out there to fix the floor. And if we don't apply for the occupancy rate, it takes another 2-3 weeks. So if we have that occupancy permit, then the floor is fixed. Now we're only down 2-3 weeks.
Andrew, once we get the occupancy, how long before you guys move in?
Depending upon when we get staffing started, I would think
By staffing started.
our full-time staffing that we've hired, we need to get them started so that we have staffing to be able to staff the facility.
Everyone do their checks, yeah.
So where are we at on that then, Andrew? I mean, cause one email we get where like we hired full-time people from Anamosa, they're ready and able to start. And then the next time I hear, oh no, we gotta do all this training before they can start. And I guess I'm confused on where we're at.
So we're going to be able to train them hopefully while we're over here operating this jail. There's a few things though that by code we have to do before we can start these people. That would include a physical and what's called the MMPI. It's a psychological evaluation that's done. That psychological evaluation is required by code. It's not always the quickest to get into. Very few places do it, and then you're limited on how quickly you can get it back. We've had several people that have their MMPIs done. We're waiting on dictation on that.
Okay, so again, I felt like that was kind of a roundabout. Yeah, I understand that, but what's the, have they gone in to have all this done? Where are we at?
Several of them have gone in and had their MMPIs and physicals done. But again, I can't start them until I get the results back on that. So we're in the wind waiting for the results from, I believe it's Medical Associates.
Okay, so as I remember, they were hired at least a couple of weeks ago, or we decided we hired them. One was on delay for 2 weeks for notification of the present job. So I assume most of it is gonna be done in 2-3 weeks, if I remember reading it right. So a time frame again, right now is all we're looking at. What's your time frame?
2 to 3 weeks is reasonable, I think.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more time. Do we apply for this occupancy rating or do we wait 2, 3 weeks?
Is 2 or 3 weeks doable to get the floor to quit squeaking and we can get them out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Paul this morning, so I'll talk to him again. And get
Well,
a hold-
and I'm gonna say this, and I don't want to sound like a smart aleck or nothing, but things seem to slow down if you're not around. So I'm assuming you're here today or maybe till lunch or whatever. I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
stick around a little bit today, but
But again, things seem to slow down if you're not around. How do we know that they're gonna, across is gonna come fix the drain today? Excellent, great, I'm glad. Oh, big gun, but
I'm in touch with him constantly. I mean, if
I get that. But things slow down when you're not around. How are we gonna make sure that the floor gets done? Or is it all of a sudden, we don't even know anybody's supposed to be there?
I guess I'll come down if you wanna pay me.
No, I'm just, that's my question, John. How do we make sure it gets done? Because it is a fact. When you left on vacation, oh, and a dang car in that parking lot the whole time you were gone, last time you went on a week's vacation. That's a fact. So with these things we're trying to tidy up, I'm in favor of getting the occupancy rating because I don't want to waste any more time than we need to. I want to get people trained. But how do we make sure that the stuff in the jail gets done that needs to get done? Because when you're not here,
down,
how do we know it's gonna get done?
I don't have a problem with coming down. I just not wanting to run a bill up on the county, you know?
So here's the thing, I mean,
How do we fix it? How do we make sure it happens? That's my question. Not
get
run a
the-
bill up. How do we make sure?
We get these emails constantly that says, well, I called them and asked them about it. Okay, I get it. You called them and told them about it, but again, like Don said, it's not being completed. We have a maintenance personnel over there that's doing a lot of work over there and spending a lot of his time over there when there's other things for him to be doing also. Now, he's addressing a lot of issues that I can see that need to be done, and he's either contacting the contractor or whoever it may be. I don't know that it's his position, but we want him to do it, so something gets completed.
I've been contacting the contractors, but Jeff's hanging clothing racks and stuff that's not even in the plans to take care of, so. If he's over there, it's because of what's being requested in addition to.
Okay,
He's also
but
helping
prime
the plumbers.
example, we all met over there, or some of us met over there and talked about these plumbing issues. We all stood there, got told everything could be completed in 2 weeks by the following Friday. That was on a Tuesday afternoon we met.
That was eight.
That would have been
By
on
the following-
yesterday, Friday.
By the
yeah.
following Friday,
Which was last week.
last Friday, all of that, he said, could have been completed. From my understanding, the major part that we're waiting on wasn't even,
They started today.
yeah,
And
so let's
the other
be clear.
part, the other part's been done.
Yeah, but the major part that was
What's the
gonna cost
major part?
the busting
trench
up the
drain.
floor,
Oh.
the whatever, that he swore could have been done a week ago, we're just starting today.
Yeah, he is trying to get somebody to
So-
come in there and do the demo work, so. I mean, I called, I mean. And I got you a schedule, at least a scheduled date, and then I called again this morning, I got it moved up to today, so. I mean, and I was planning on sticking around, see, you know, make sure.
I just wanna know with the squeaky floor. I know you got other
I'll
things you
come
need to.
down and do it.
I don't necessarily care if you come down. How are you gonna make sure it happens?
I'm gonna talk to Bill Bruce and I'm holding the money that, you know, I'm holding their money till
So-
they get it fixed.
I guess, okay, Andrew, can we agree that we will apply for this occupancy permit? And if we need to start, legal action, we may do that.
Yeah, I'm fine with applying for it.
Okay. I mean, if we have to seek out the bonding, whatever that is, I don't know how that works.
I talked to your county attorney, I've worked with county attorneys, before,
Okay.
but, you know, you have to give the contractor an opportunity to fix it. Now, this contractor's gonna drop everything and do everything, you know, this is important enough that they got to, you know, get in there and get it done. I haven't, I talked to Paul this morning. I have full faith that he's gonna get something done. He's gonna talk to him at their meeting today and get it scheduled. I said, it's not gonna go away. It's gotta be fixed. So I met with him this morning. I'll come down if you want, you know,
I
I'll come
appreciate
down to make sure it happens. And all I can do, but I'm not gonna sit on site and wait for it to happen.
No, I
and charge
appreciate
you, $800 a day or whatever. I'm not gonna do
I just
that.
wanna make sure it gets happened. We'd like to know a time frame so
I
we
don't
can
mind.
validate that work is being done here.
Yeah.
Because again, we had our open house, we kinda had time frames
We're
on
getting
when things were gonna
Killed by
work.
the public and the, everybody else on what's going on here.
Well, you know what? In my opinion, that I never had that happen before, that occupancy permit should have been issued for the inmates. On that jail side with understanding that those items would have been fixed too, but it didn't happen and. But now's the time to get the occupancy permit. I'll get with Andrew today, get a list of them doors, and they need to come do the training and bring security tools, and if I have to come down, I'll come down too. So that I make sure they go through it. We can't just let people leave the site, and that's what you're talking about.
Right.
If I'm not here, sometimes they get out of here
Right.
and don't check, and you know what? God damn it, you know, some people ought to be able to do their job, you know, too, but on the other hand, if I need to be here and babysit them, I'll babysit them through it.
Jeff, I'd like you to attend that training if it's with Stronghold and that, maybe about adjusting the locks and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah.
Cause I doubt this will be the only time this will ever happen, so.
No, it'll be, when you start slamming them doors, you know, them doors, you've heard them shut behind you. When you start slamming the doors and stuff, some stuff needs fine tuned till it gets used some. I don't care if it's the toilet. I mean, you were there and everybody was there and Jeff was there. Adjusted the toilets one morning and we started using them and they're spraying over the damn thing and Jeff understood how to adjust them and, you know, that stuff until you get consistent use of something, you're not gonna recognize it and it's gotta be level itself out. I mean, there's airing lines and everything else. So, I mean, it's just a matter that we've gotta catch up, but this stuff has gotta be completed. So I agree with Mike. And I will get the list from Andrew and tell them they gotta get up here, get it done immediately. And I want training. And otherwise, we're not gonna release, your final payment, you know? So.
And did you need any training with the HVAC system or stuff? Cause I know, or with the sprinkler system, you said something about the pressurized pump seems to be running, 10, 12 times a day.
So I just talked to John about that this morning. It was like at about 118 or so pounds. Right when we were leaving over there to come back over here, it had run and it was up to 125. So it's dropping about 8 pounds of pressure, I'm guessing every hour and a half, 2 hours, which seems probably a little bit much in my mind.
Yeah, and Jeff and I were talking about it, we were looking at the gauge, and that's what we talked about, is we gotta watch, see how much we're dropping. Are we dropping a pound and it's kicking on? But if it's 8 pounds, then I get a whole Midwest and they can come over. I mean, if it dropped totally, it'd send off the alarm, so it's not that, but realistically, the pump shouldn't have to run that big much.
Cool.
And now it's time to get it fixed, huh?
They're gonna wear the pump out.
Yeah, well, that's what I was talking about, yeah, so.
So Andrew also said that he was there for 12 hours with either Stronghold or what was the other one?
SGTS.
Yeah, so, and one that says it's Stronghold problem, the other one says it's SGTS's problem.
They're all under the same goddamn contract, so
Okay.
that's why I keep
Well, then
them all under the same contract.
Somebody fix it.
Somebody fix it, we're gonna point our finger at one person
Or
and
maybe we
say,
put them both there.
yeah.
Maybe
Well,
they
why
need to
didn't they
both
both
come
show
at
at
the
the same time?
Yeah,
Well, there you
then
go,
they
you
can
should
argue,
be.
then they can argue over it.
This job's so easy, a caveman could do it. So,
Yeah,
no,
that's definitely been the biggest pain.
I
told
mean,
you,
versus,
that's-
it's kind of like anything, you do computer work, oh, it's this.
Yeah.
They're arguing back and forth, it's like,
no,
Andrew, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just saying that's definitely been the biggest pain, has been dealing with Stronghold and SGTS and trying to get them to communicate with each other and fix their own issues.
And Stronghold hasn't been as much of an issue as SGTS has been, has it, Andrew?
Since neither of them want to accept responsibility for what's going on, I couldn't tell you which is the problem.
I usually go through Stronghold, but I'll give Tom a call and tell him what's going on.
I mean, I honestly think we need to put the gas pedal down on Stronghold, SGTS,
Mhm.
Bruce Builders, and Kraus. Those are the three main ones that we really need to get done. The Woodman HVAC stuff, I don't know, the guy that was here that day, he didn't sure seem to know what he was talking about very much. So we need to get somebody down here to show Andrew and his guys how to adjust the temperature in the cells and stuff like that. The other thing that still keeps coming back to me is that gas line up on the roof that never got painted. You know, it was in the manual. I think that's something that probably should have been done and didn't get done.
So with that being said, who's gonna put the thumb on Kraus and Bruce Builders and whoever?
Strong.
You,
My
is that you,
job.
pressing the thumb?
Yeah.
I wanna see a response. If I could,
email for.
Mhm.
or some action, if I could.
I would be in favor of sending the letter to Delbert to get the occupancy, so that way we don't have to wait after we get these things done, because I'm hoping within a couple of weeks, we got the training needed to be done, the things need to be done, everything can hit, we can just get it running. I'd like to see use in that building as soon as possible.
Agreed. You okay with that? Clint? Yeah, okay, Andrew said he was fine with it. Anything else we need to discuss here?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm filling out final lien waivers and all that, getting them out to contractors. That we have that taken care of. And pulling together the contact lists and stuff that I can get Andrew and stuff, so that we have contact also, and Jeff. So I just copy everybody on everything and then get her. And I'm working on the as-built records for the plans and warnings. Other than that,
Have you sent anything to this Peggy Hesh with
I
WPP?
talked to Peggy yesterday. She's wanting some of the submittals. I told her I'd put them together for her by the end of the week.
Okay, no, as long as you're responding, that's all I care.
Anything else, Andrew?
I don't believe so.
Do you know what you need to send to Delbert?
Mhm.
Okay. Let us know what he said.
Yeah, I'll just copy on the letter that goes out to them.
Sounds good.
Well, we appreciate it again, John, I guess, yeah, I mean, somehow we feel that there's responsibility in your part to put the thumb on somebody. And I guess this, when you keep saying, well, I'll be here to pay, but it's gonna cost the county, I feel we had a contract. And we had a price that was stated, and that's where we're at, so. I guess as long as we get things completed, but we feel like it's been drug on here a little too long. So hopefully we can move forward. Appreciate
Cross
it.
the finish line.
Okay.
Anything else, Jeff? All right, have a good day, guys.
Are you gonna recess or can you just give me a minute?
Oh, yeah, before we end, you mean?
Yeah, don't end yet.
Okay.
Okay, so let me see if Mary can use.
What's on the meeting agenda? 11 o'clock.
That's a work session. I thought it was.
Doesn't say a work session, it says discussion possible action.
Yeah, that's what.
But it is a work session. I mean, you don't plan to take any action.
Discussion of possible motion.
Yes. No.
Just going off what it says.
Yep.
Okay, we'll get the next box ordered.
Okay,
This work session with Josh, they're saying it says discussion possible action. That's the way you really want things on the agenda, right, Lisa? That's because,
If you're having a work session, it has to be an open session.
it's open to the public, yeah.
But the way this is reading, it's part of our actual meeting.
Well, you're not, I mean, work sessions are meetings.
Right.
That came from, I listened to it was sponsored by, I think it was sponsored by ISAC. So yes, I mean, you're supposed to have, when you have work sessions, you're supposed to be, it's a meeting, I'm gonna take minutes,
Right.
and we publish
And I
that.
get all that, but I mean, this looks like it's just a continuation of this meeting of,
That's traditionally what should be done, because then it's recorded for the public to see, like I
well, then
said.
we should just take a recess and wait.
We will take a reset this time. Okay, we will reconvene at this time, and we've been working on a draft proposal with the city of Wacogata and Josh as far as our 911 communications agreement, as far as funding and levy, if you will. So, I mean, there was a draft sent to us, and we kind of read it over and have our own personal thoughts, maybe, or comments about the whole thing. So I don't know who wants to start. I guess my first thought is that I read this week and I got from ISAC their legislative priorities, and of course, this is one of the priorities is whether emergency management or where the levy is gonna come from to operate. So I don't know what everybody's thoughts is on that. Are we getting the cart in front of the horse, or are we spinning our wheels here for what reason if we don't know what's gonna happen in legislation? I mean, I don't want to do it now in a month and then in 3 months change it again. That's my point. I mean, who needs to come to the table? Is it 911 board? Is it the old communication board? EMA, of course. I mean, you're mentioning here several times. Sheriff Department. I question, I guess, the mayors. How much input do they have? They really know what EMS is doing? I would sooner have, I guess, my EMS personnel giving me insight to what we need or what it should be done. I don't know. I don't know enough about this. I'm on the 911 board, but I tell you, it's complicated to where it goes back 30 years before me, and it's complicated.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
A lot of this, looks like, as far as the membership of this board, is based on the old one. And the old communications board, each city and the county had a rep because they were paying it directly from their budgets. I don't know, you know, if you do it with a EMA levy, I don't know if that's really necessary at that point. You know, it might be better to have the sheriff and the police chief that's running it, and you know, if you want an EMS member and a fire member or whatever, you know, however you want to do that. But yeah, this is based on, you know, the mayors were in there because they needed somebody that had say over the budget. Because they
Right.
would be presented
Okay,
with the budget.
that side of it. Okay, so tell me this. Somebody explain to me, and my question is, why can't we, I mean, this has worked for a long time. Why can't we continue as to say, Wacogata has this population, so this is their percentage? I don't know how many calls they had or how many times they used the microphone, or Bellevue has this much population, this is their percentage. And the county has this population, this is your percentage. That won't work? Somebody tell me that won't work?
There's only a certain amount of cities and townships that are billed right now. And there's other.
So any incorporated municipality should be its own entity, if I'm correct. Now, if Leisure Lake and Green Island and whoever is not incorporated, they should be counted as part of the county's percentage to me. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, under what you're talking about, it would. Basically 30 years ago, however long ago it was, they kind of went by police coverage because police is 80% of what
dispatch does, whether it's emergency or not. And the sheriff's office, the county covered a lot of these small incorporated towns, but they didn't have their own police department. They were covered by the
Sure,
county.
Miles,
Yeah, well, Andrew,
Lamont.
Springbrook, Lamont, those
Yep.
small towns.
Oh,
Yeah, so there is several of them. So the county just kind of took them in as part of their payment because they don't have their own stuff. So that's where that, originated at many years ago.
and to me, that makes sense, but they're still counted. So the population of Lamont would be counted into the county.
Right, yeah.
So that would be a percentage. But if they're incorporated, I think they're their own, are they not their own entity? To say, this is the population of Springbrook, this is the population, if we're gonna assess on a percentage
Now it's a
basis.
census.
If it's 2% of the total population, so be it. That's what they're invoicing.
I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh. The reason that we want to look at that is because if we do it your way, Mike, what you're saying is.
I didn't say it was my way.
No,
it's a
no,
suggestion.
you're.
The way you're
The
describing.
formula that you're describing is says Bellevue, oh, I'm not paying. We don't have no legal authorities having to pay this.
What makes
assessment.
So you're
what
talking
makes you
about
tell
two different
Lamont they
things.
have to
Yeah.
pay?
You're talking about an assessment, because that's what you'd have to say.
Yeah.
That's basically what we have right now is an
Mhm.
assessment.
Mhm.
The city of Macokota tells Jackson County that for fiscal year 25, our assessment is gonna be 275,000. But what you're talking about is not, they're talking about a levy that may be.
No, it's an
60
assessment to that town because
That's not what this paper is about.
What you're talking
What
about.
you're talking
I-
about is an assessment, but what this paper is talking about is a levy, which will shift the money of who pays.
Well, the two philosophies in front of this talks about a property tax levy, which assesses every property owner in Jackson County, said percentage to come up with whatever finances we need to run dispatch. The assessment charges every per person. If you do the property tax levy, anybody that rents or whatever is left out and doesn't have to put part of the bill. If you have a census population count, it's more legwork in doing it, but it captures more of a per person, per capita kind of thing versus just passing it on to property.
The assessment is not guaranteed though, correct?
You not get what?
I don't know why you could put that in a legal form. though.
You could, but we don't really have nothing in legal form right now.
And then if I'm not mistaken from our communication, couple meetings that we did have. Just here within the past year. The question is, who's the one billing for that and who's the one sitting there waiting for. Whatever town is kind of bucking, not wanting to pay, who has to pick that up?
Yeah, that's a real
That-
issue with their fire department. Is, the township payments they're difficult and sometimes they're up to 2 years behind and, we eat it. And, we're gonna continue to eat it on this model, especially when we start billing these other incorporated organizations, something that they haven't had before, or an increase based off of a refresh, based off of a census, for example. And I guess the only thing that I want to start out with saying is this, I can see Bob working off of the first delivery of a Word document from Allers and Cooney. There's plenty to go over why it's not formatted yet for Jackson County. Last point I want to make is what I've described to our city council and I never want to start rumors that something's going to happen to communications because that's not the intent of anyone here. Is when we start to shift and build these little cities, that money comes from somewhere, and you need to continue to pay attention to the financial health of these little cities. Because they're the ones that are gonna be paying these $30,000 or $40,000 bills to us each year to manage communications. And just in our one mayor's meeting with Mike Rader, he kind of fell in line with, well, wait a second. How are we gonna continue to pay this? And that's where at some point in the future, the county may be put into a difficult decision-making position to put it on a property tax levy where the funding is guaranteed, because some of these little cities aren't gonna be a Macokota. or Bellevue would be able to have the capacity to pay for it because of population loss or property rotting or whatever else you want to call it. So even if this doesn't go this year, next year, just asking that you pay attention to the financial condition to each little city that contributes to us.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've said this from day one and we both agree that we have to have it. It has to come from somewhere. What's the fairest way to do that? I guess that's what I'm looking at. I don't, you know. If it's assessed to the. I don't think it's fair to say if it's assessed to the property. To say one person's value is $1.5 million and the other one is 70,000. So the guy with the $1.5 million assessment is gonna pay X amount more for a phone call? Or to use the communications? Is that what we're trying to do here? Is that, I mean, his assessment's higher because of the fact that his value of his property, which he bought and paid for and paying taxes on, but he gonna get charged more because his assessed value is more? Is that how it works?
Every little city is gonna have to pay their bill from somewhere and raise money from somewhere.
Yeah. But I somehow feel it should be per capita somehow, but I don't know if that's right or wrong. I feel that everybody should be paying their fair share. And I don't know how you do that.
You're saying cities get their money from property taxes?
Yeah, right now, or, versions of local option sales tax or, with us, hotel motel tax, and there's a ton of different revenue sources in the general. I'm not sure about the city of Anjou or Preston or Miles or some of these other places or Sebula, but they'll be paying their $30,000 bills, and that's just an estimate. Comes from somewhere. And the more you get in the weeds about this, the more suddenly the simple answer is a levy.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not, showing stuff out for conversation.
So I mean, if you wanna do an assessment, just the numbers that I threw together here, 500,000. 19,500 population is be $25 per person. So the city of Macokota would pay, well, let me back up there, times 62. They're gonna pay 158,000. These are rough numbers. City, let's see. City of Bellevue is roughly around 1,900. They're gonna pay 48,000. I'm just kind of pulling some rough figures off of what my assessment is.
Lisa, you wanna use yours?
Well, no, so I've looked at two different things. I mean, 500,000 I think is too low. So we're probably looking, okay, so I think we're looking probably, my figure that I started with was 630,000. I've also tried to look at 700,000. So what I've looked at is if you use Bellevue as an example, I have 2,363 residents. 2,363, I think was the census. Bellevue at one point here would owe like 53,000. I don't, what do they pay now? 30?
That's not that. I think it's closer to 20 even.
Okay.
Bellevue's way
Bellevue's
under.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's gonna be some of the problems. If I look at Jackson County, and if I look at our rural population, right now we're paying about 272 or 274,000, I think it's somewhere in through there. If we go to a value, if we go by per capita, we're looking at about 422,000. That's spread all over
That
Jackson
includes
County.
like the Fredville's, the.
No, because they
No.
would be on their own also.
Any unincorporated city is included in her population with my assessment that I do for EMA.
So that's why it's tough to look at valuation, it's tough to look at population. But I see that this is gonna be a significant increase to the rural residents of Jackson County. And I can't give you a good figure yet, but I was looking at 56 cents. So if I look at 56 cents on last year's valuation and rollback, yeah, Jackson County was at 462,000. I'm looking at the city of Macokota would be 117,000. So it's a decrease to the city and it's an increase to the county. And then, you know, I agree with Josh that you have Andrew, that is, their fire department pays like a half, it's minimal, okay. But then Baldwin's not paying anything right now. But they're gonna have to pay about $1,700 at 56 cents for communications. Lamont isn't paying anything right now, and they're gonna have to pay 5,400. That's gonna be part of the problem as we're looking at what the state of Iowa is doing to municipalities and counties. They're squeezing us.
And I'll give you just how Bellevue handles their communications charge now is the fee that we receive from the city of Macokota, they pass it down to police, fire, and ambulance. So the fire department's gonna have tax for it. Ambulance service don't get no taxation, so whatever they.
So it's gonna go into their budget and they're
Yeah.
gonna, they're gonna pay it.
But what's gonna happen to the Springbrook's, the
small
Andrews,
cities.
the Saint Anaitas that don't have these services to, you know, pass it down to? Or, you know.
You're billing, it hypothetically, you'd be billing the city for that 117,
That's at 56 cents for a levy.
but you'd be billing the city for that.
No, that's
No,
a tax
it's a
levy
levy.
collected.
That's
a
how it's just
levy.
a point of
It's not a-
clarification. there,
It's a
just to make
levy,
sure.
yeah, and that was just, like I said, I'm using last year's data. The rollbacks aren't out yet from the state of Iowa, so I can't do any analysis yet.
Aren't we thinking it's more like what we need is about 770?
Yeah, I'd put 700 as a very rough estimate in this draft, but and also I think that was part of the initial kind of, hey, we really need to work out what the language is of this, because we've only discussed people.
Yeah.
Related costs in this, and this goes pretty far to cast a wide net as what's possible.
I think,
And I think that you create some language in there to really continue what we've done in the past, not just suddenly jump into the muddiness of what the 911 board replaces for equipment here and there. You know, so
I agree.
that, you know, on page 2 or of this operating cost on that second line, I had put in there up to and including whatever, so that we have some flexibility just to limit it to those people costs that we've been practiced with for a long time.
and from what I hear from other counties that done this is you have to have, there's a happy medium. You just can't go with your basic budget. You gotta have a little bit of
Cushion.
cushion, so,
I mean, you, like any other budget, you got 20 to 25%
yeah,
cushion, hopefully.
yeah, and that's what we gotta look at, cause, I mean, unexpected,
So you're looking at $1 million.
hires. I don't know, you know,
Yeah, and I think the other thing you have to keep in mind too is with, you know, if we have to levy this someday, the state's dropped income taxes. They've sped up their income tax reduction down to its quickest level, right?
Mhm,
I mean,
yeah.
so at some point, the state has done what they've done to the best of their ability to speed up tax cuts, and they're leaving us trying to figure it out. And unfortunately, that's where we're at.
It's called passing it.
Yeah, right?
Unfunded mandate.
they're good at that.
Hey, just for a point, just for curiosity, I heard some rumors about how they're gonna change possibly the surcharge.
Yeah, that's,
To cell phones and to,
How do you go against what we voted on?
oh, they're,
So they can do that, we as
Whatever they
citizens,
want.
so we as citizens of Jackson County, we voted for that.
Mhm.
And we said, we're gonna charge $1, we're gonna pay $1, and all of a sudden the state can come in and say, oh, by the way, now we're gonna go $1.25.
yeah, because they're going by it as a state-run network, and they can change it with the legislative action.
So whatever the citizens voted on across the state of Iowa doesn't really matter.
Evidently not.
Wow, okay, voted your representatives. When I heard that, I thought, hey, wait a minute, we voted on.
And it's not guaranteed that they're gonna raise the
Yeah.
surcharge. They're gonna change the percentages of how it gets divvied out. And, you know, if they don't raise the surcharge, the 911 board's gonna appeal it.
Okay,
If they leave it the same, if they, you know, just leave it and mess with the percentages. It's hard saying how much money they'd lose, but they'll lose better their funding. And that's kind of what the legislature wants to do, because they're seeing a lot of money sitting there in the assigned and unassigned parts of their budgets.
Which, I mean, with ours, we've been saving it up for a long time for the radio stuff, and ours is gonna get emptied out.
Yep.
Coming up in a year or so.
Yep.
But a lot of other places are hanging on to it, and they've got some big numbers there.
I get it. Okay.
Even if it's assigned, the legislature doing, you got a lot of money sitting there, we could be using that at the state level. Which at least the state 911 people are picking up a lot of costs now. And when they change the percentages, they're gonna pick up some more costs.
Oh, okay.
But,
Alright. But that won't affect this.
this is totally separate.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
911 surcharge can't pay for people.
Well, it's about budget season for the city and the county, and I'm kind of anxiously wondering where we go.
Yeah.
And sensing that the votes aren't here to really proceed, and wondering what to do. And would like some clarity out of this meeting, whether we should be looking at totally status quo or revising our current model to some sort of per capita based off the last US Census or something. And then you get in the issue of is that a lawful order for billing from the city based on our current agreements, which or wherever, we've looked for the documents.
Yeah,
They're not around.
Yeah.
And
Well, somehow going forward, we need to address that old communications board. If that thing's not existent, can we just be done with it? I mean, we can't find any record of,
You can't find anything that's even signed it into existence, other than there's half a page that's not signed.
okay, so then the attorney tells me, yeah, we don't need to worry about it or whatever. If we establish a new advisory board, if it will, we ain't got one hanging out there somewhere that we could find. I mean, there was 50, 60 people on that board at one time. I mean, there was.
two different things.
Okay,
So the intent of this agreement is agreement for the joint management of public safety communication services, and part of it was to supersede any sort of agreements we may have had in the past. Do you try to frame this document to say on first shot here, we're gonna base it off of the per capita and census, and then if the ISAC or the legislature doesn't resolve some issues, or if you're sensing from the Andrews or these little communities that this is becoming a greater issue than anticipated, we have, I guess, maybe the ability at a later time to levy this out? Is that the better direction to head, or we're? So I think we're on the right path. We're forming a document that gives us the right to collect money from incorporated organizations or the county.
I think we also need to do some public awareness, though, because this is gonna look like a substantial tax increase to the citizens of Jackson County. I mean,
We're still billing the cities, though. I mean, it's a good.
well, it's coming from somewhere now.
I'm
It's
just
not,
saying that it's gonna look like if you run it through EMA is gonna have a 50, 60 cent increase.
You end up levying.
If you levy.
I'm not sensing that from this group right
But
now.
I'm just saying, so that's why I think we need to do some, depending on what your decision is.
Yeah.
Well, right now, we're coughing up about 270.
272 or 274.
274.
Yeah. Mhm.
It might go to 420. Technically, out of our pocket, we're only making up the difference of about 150. The difference is that becomes a whole separate tax. So we just need to make sure that 274 that's coming out of the general fund is actually realized and not just absorbed into other stuff that just inflates it up.
If they go to a levy, the whole 770,000
Yeah.
or $1 million is on the county's back. If you do a levy, that has to flow through the county, it is a levy. And then as that money is collected, then it has to get dispersed back to the city.
Mhm.
So you're talking, yeah, I mean, I get it. You're right. If we're at 270 now, we go to,
We come up to 150.
yeah, so that's. But
That shifts over to EMA.
that's just the count, yeah. I mean, and that's just the unincorporated part, yes.
Which to
Is
me, the one concern I have there is we're taxing or levying
Mhm.
for that money that basically you control. So you can decide 911 is gonna get a $2 raise. And we're the ones that look like the badasses then. And we have no control over how you run. How you run that, you know,
Right.
that's one of my little concerns.
And Brent and I talked a little bit about that and really even expanded, because Nathan Overberg's suggestion was a 7-person board. And we were talking about a 9-person board with representatives from each group, a staff liaison that would report to that board, but ultimately, you know, what is the scope of it in terms of like budget management? I would view that as advisory. But if there was ever a managing agency change, there's some real powers there for that board.
I see if we go to a per capita thing, that 9-person board where you have mayors and all that stuff going, but if we end up going with a levy, that board can be a lot smaller because it's basically the city, us, and maybe EMA that are gonna be dealing with it, because again, if it's a per capita, a lot of the bookwork or all the bookwork, the accounting purposes go to you.
Right.
If it's a levy, it all goes to us, and then we gotta sign it over.
So, I mean, a little bit at a fork in the road in terms of funding mechanisms and stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Before you get into the
So-
details of the agreement, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's, you levy or you per capita distribute this. And before you can get into how are we gonna, the details, I think you have to know which one you're going down.
Do you see anything on the horizon, Lynn, in your chatter with the EMAs at the state level legislation to say, you know, I mean, you guys lobbied last year for a levy, you know, so where you think, you think you're gaining ground or
Been
you?
4 years into this and, you know, it's, they change it every year. Mike.
Yeah, I get it.
It's
But you're
just
not hearing any chatter?
Not really, I mean, just.
Like I said, I don't mind. I mean, again, we want to be good neighbors and to be honest, we worked together well for the last, I don't, you know, whatever it is. But again, it's got to come from somewhere. We got to have it. So how it's divided up, I just somehow we got to be fair, I think, to the population. You know?
I mean, no different than, I mean, you go back to your synopsis there, Mike. If this guy has $1 million house, and this guy has this amount of house, fire service, he's still paying more for fire service than this guy. You know, it's just,
If it's assessed
Still,
on,
yeah.
property, levy.
you know, still the same phone call.
But you give the same service to this guy down here.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna
It's
give
all
him the
equal.
same service, so
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Right, but he's still paying more.
Do I
just
have more to
because it's-
protect, or does he have more to protect, or who has? It's still the communications. It's not the actual service, it's the communications part of, hey, I called in. It's costing me 4 times as much to call in than it is the other guy to call in.
Well, that's what basically.
I'm not saying right or wrong.
That's what Chief, no, yeah, no, it should be Nixon, that was his chief complaint.
That Sevilla was paying X amount of dollars.
Yeah, and Bellevue is paying less than
And their
him.
valuation. Well, and then that's been a discrepancy.
Mhm.
So how do we fix it?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. I hear
That's the
you.
magic ball.
So who came up with the original division of who pays?
That was the communications board. Basically, there is a formula that I don't have in front of me, but it included population and then call counts.
Mhm.
The reason Bellevue was so low is their police department was at the time answering their own phone.
Yep.
Now we answer it the vast majority of the time because there's a lot of liability for them doing that.
Yeah.
So that's, their usage is now kicking way up. Sebula, in the meantime, has lost quite a bit of population during that time period. So it's worked out where Sebula is probably paying too much. Bellevue's not paying nearly enough. Preston and Miles are probably about where they should be.
Okay.
But that's, they did try to include usage. I mean, that's why Macocota is up higher because a lot of calls on Macocota.
Yeah.
And then the county was up higher because their population is higher. And now there's more calls out in the county now than there used to be. So the usage is there also. But that's kind of how it all came into being. They're trying to level off population with actual usage.
Do you know if each board would have to approve an agreement if we're billing them?
I think that's something that we're gonna, yeah, I mean, cause you're,
I'm sorry, what do you mean by each board?
Baldwin or some of these
You
others.
mean
we've never-
council or
Yeah,
Cities.
cities,
city council?
yeah.
Well, right
Yeah,
now,
so
I
when
know
they-
the sheriff's department went around because it is a state law that if they don't have a sheriff or police department, they have to have at least contracted services with a department. So they went around and they hit them up for whatever dollars, so it would have to be, and that had to be approved by each and every city they went to, so I would imagine this would be the same thing. Again, if we went with the per capita rate kind of thing.
You don't have to if you don't want to.
Then you get down to the semantics with, that board's gonna be a lot more concentrated.
So it should be as simple as this, everybody's paying their fair share, except Bellevue and Tooele, we need to switch it up and then we're done.
levy is coming from
It
it.
should mix it,
Yeah, but it's a different.
Huh?
mixing to go with it.
So it's,
And
yeah,
Bellevue knows they're way underpaying, I don't think.
and I understand that whole part of it, you know, you went back 40 years ago where they were looking at the phone bill and see who called what, well, you know, I mean, we've come a ways since then, but what's the right direction? I have.
So would the communication boards consider looking at the formula and the breakdown?
I don't want at the end of the day, I don't want the city to get burned and fall 2 years behind in billables. That's issue
I get
number
it.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the most simple way of doing it is following the per capita, the rate and probably long term.
Would you though? I mean, it has to be budgeted and paid to the budget of each city, so it has to come from, it's no different than they're paying for whatever fire or law enforcement or whatever it may be. Each city is budgeted, they come with a budget to the city, so this is part of their budget. When it comes, it's part of their budget, it's just fair to everybody to me, but I understand your concern about falling behind because the mayoral league falls behind, but that's $75, you know, and they forget about it, whatever, you know, but this is something that has to be part of their
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I just would caution, and maybe not caution's not the right word, but just pay attention to those small cities along the way.
We see that with RPA and stuff when they're looking at projects they're doing, where they're wondering where they're gonna come up with $5, $10, $15,000 to pave a sidewalk or fix a curb or something. You know, to turn around and tell the city all of a sudden they gotta cough up $2 or $3 or $5,000 worth of dispatch money.
Well, they're doing it now at some point. I mean, everybody's,
Not all of
No,
them.
Baldwin's,
Because
Monmouth, Zwingle.
but they're
Covering it.
well, it's covered under the county, so yeah, they're getting it through the county.
So if all of these Baldwin, whoever
Because-
miles decide they don't wanna do it,
Our 272,000 does not come from the small cities of Andrew, Baldwin, Springbrook, I mean,
they're not paying that.
they're not paying that. The rural residents are paying that 272,000
Well,
right
they're
now.
rural residents,
There's within the city limits of,
they're not incorporated.
I'm
Or
sorry,
Baldwin.
but Baldwin, I mean,
Monmouth,
Baldwin,
Baldwin,
Lamont,
Lamont.
they're
Oh, something has to change with that, so everybody pays their fair share.
So those small cities are basically getting a free service,
yes,
Yes,
because they're not paying the tax and they're
that's
not,
correct.
so.
And then all of a sudden, you're gonna tell Baldwin, we need $2,000 for communications.
Again, it's an essential service.
Who's gonna go tell them that?
I'm not so sure if that ain't coming through legislation. I don't know that, but you know, if it's essential service, like we claimed it was 2 years ago in legislation, right? Or whatever it was.
Well, I hear that it could be coming to legislation. I see that, and these are our priorities. But then you hear Lynn say that they've been talking about it for 4 years and we don't know nothing. And in the 2 years I've been sitting in this year, I haven't exactly just been overwhelmed with impression that they have, you know, that things they come up with are like well thought out and just the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I don't know what their solution is gonna look like, because, well, we just talked about mental health today. It's a train wreck. So
as you've seen that done with Seventh Judicial and with Iowa Workforce and
So do we massage this thing 1 year and see what the state does by tweaking a few of the percentages or whatever and keep it status quo? Do we really look at trying to fix something? And then hopefully the state doesn't screw it up too much.
I agree. I don't think the state's gonna touch it. It's my opinion. They talked about TIF for how long and not touched it. But I'm, want to make sure that we have legal authority to bill for when Baldwin starts paying a bill they've never received before. If there's someone contests it, there's an issue there. So I don't know, without having any sort of motions or totally clear guidance, I think I know enough to return to Nathan and ask some of these questions of Lisa. Would you agree?
yeah, I agree. I mean, I guess that's the question is all of a sudden, how do we tell Baldwin you owe $2,000?
Right.
I guess that's really, I mean, what is there? And I know what Mike is saying too about essential service. So I guess those are the questions
Right.
for Nate. Is it the board's wishes then that you believe that agreements need to be done with all the small cities and Jackson County has their own agreement?
Well, I think
for the
that all that,
communications?
we gotta decide, are we gonna do something to try to correct this? If the answer is yes, from what I'm gathering, that there's only two ways we do it, per capita or a tax levy. If we do a per capita, all of that legwork needs to be done in city agreements and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
If we do a tax levy, none of that needs to happen because it just goes on a tax levy. We have to go on a media blitz to explain why this is happening and what, and it's not really a huge tax increase. It just looks like it, but we're playing shell game, moving some money around because now there's this taxes that they're gonna be paying, but that should drop our rural services over here, you know what I mean? It's just,
Jackson County will pay more.
I
Yeah.
get that, but I'm talking about the individual person where, it just, they're gonna see it.
Then you get to Mike's, I've got, the $1 million and the $75,000, then you have that. If that means anything or not.
Yeah, and our renters won't pay, but the landlord that owns the
And all
building.
the
will pay.
commercial property
So,
owners
yeah.
and, this last tax season was not. There were not a lot of happy commercial taxpayers when it came to property taxes.
But the income taxes though.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole,
Right.
of which I have nothing to do with, but
They don't put them together.
when you have a commercial business and all of a sudden you need to pay 60 cents more on a commercial business, it may not go over.
So to me, are we gonna tackle it? Then if we're gonna tackle it, are we gonna per capita, or are we going to, do a levy? The one question I've asked several times even through John is, can the county legally levy for a county levy for a city service? Without what kind of agreement needs to be in place or whatever, because that gets back to a little bit what Lynn talked about. If we're paying all the freight, I ain't buying a car for you to drive without at least having to say how you drive. So,
Yeah.
The $30.
Well, we're sitting here in mid-October. Do you know when I should know this, but I don't. I assume Judy sends out those communication bills at some point here in this late fall, so they know.
send them to Lisa too.
Yeah.
Please.
The communication bills?
Yeah,
Our communication bill. you're
our
saying.
communication.
Yeah.
It goes to the sheriff's office.
Okay.
What was the question? I'm
The
sorry.
communication
When they send
bill
out the communication bill,
That goes
I
to
said,
Karen.
could you be carbon copied on our communication bill?
I can tell you for this budget year, Macocata City pays 42% along with Jackson County.
Yeah,
Our assessment is 276,000.
yeah,
Yeah.
when they send that bill out. To the
Yeah,
sheriff,
we don't usually get it.
I asked that you get
Yes,
carbon
that-
copies
okay,
on.
Yeah, yeah. See, the city of Bellevue pays 5.5%. Their assessment is 36,000, say 200. Whereas Sebula, they pay 5%. Their assessment is 32, almost 33,000. So Sebula pays $3,000 less. Yeah. So that's So I guess that's the question, is you gonna stay with the formula?
Yeah, I'll have to ask Judy when we mail those out, because if it's mid-November, we don't have time to do anything at all. Because we have to go in front of these councils and boards and go in with a hard hat and ask for more money that they never paid for.
You know, and I still look at,
Yeah.
I still look at that and whether you live in Baldwin, Lamont, wherever you may live, if you decide, well, I'm not gonna do that, well, where are you gonna go? You're still gonna have to pay it somewhere. If it's per capita, if you're gonna live in Jackson County, you're gonna pay for the service, essential service. It doesn't matter where you go, you're gonna pay for it. If you move out of Lamont because you don't wanna pay the 60 cents, I mean, then you're going somewhere else. Am I looking at it wrong?
No, I mean, somewhere, somebody's collected in each county, whether it's the county level or, you know, we're unique because we're probably a handful of dispatchers that are not run by the county.
There's more than you think. That
So-
was fairly common and it's kind of, they're going through changes with, in a lot of places. But there's
I
still
mean,
plenty of
I mean, like in the metropolitan area, like Des Moines has more.
This might be really silly. So we're divided in 3 districts and they're all the population's about the same, correct?
Yeah.
So can you charge the 3 districts the equal amount? But I don't know how you collect them.
Supervisor districts? No.
Make sure we charge her just a little bit more.
All right. There's
So what are you
That
thinking?
cleared,
You
but-
need to talk to Nathan, is that what you're,
I think
is
so.
that what you're directing?
Yeah, because
Is
if
that
we,
okay
if we,
for
if
us?
we, I
Are
would
you okay?
schedule
Yeah.
another follow-up work session in 2 weeks from now, first off, just to report findings.
Maybe 3 weeks.
Get Lisa over the election.
What's the difference?
You know what, you can ask about?
Yeah, it'll say 2 weeks from now, she might be just.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right, that's,
I
that is
gotta
the
do this
difference.
a lot. Yeah.
That's the difference.
That day. Yeah, so, no, I don't want to step into something unless the city has legal authority quickly to
I think that's a good
demand
question for
that the
Nathan.
bills
Yeah.
are paid. You know, if we execute, I guess, a do nothing option, I do want this revisited in the spring to keep in touch with legislative changes, if any, and also a better research project into other cities' financial condition.
So in the meantime, is there a situation or a scenario as the 911 board is to correct the discrepancy with the percentage? Can the 911 board do that? I mean, they come up with
It
these.
has to be the communication board.
Communications board.
911
What
funds-
communications board?
Well,
The one that
You
wasn't
guys.
around, that is around.
911 funds that's basically an equipment fund.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
pay salaries out of it at all, and that's by state code, so.
So
They
it
can't
can't be
really
the
play this.
911 board doing that. It would
You're,
have to-
you're working with 2 different budgets, really. You have equipment, salaries.
Yeah. And basically what this is salary, we're dealing with.
Right.
salary.
Yeah.
My problem is, I think the board, if we said, it'd be nice to say, okay, let's form this board. But to me, it gets back to, if it's per capita, the board looks completely different to me than if it's a tax levy.
Yeah.
And so, do we form a rudimentary board to kind of start iron out, do we have the legal authority to tax for a city service without a 28E or some kind of contractual, you know,
I think that needs to be our first question answered,
you
to
know.
even know what direction we can go. Because it doesn't do no good to think we're going down that path and then to find out that we can't do it.
That's what this is, though. I mean, this isn't John's work. This is Nathan Overberg, who's done this for several other organizations throughout the state that are doing this currently, that provided this draft.
That are doing.
The levy is,
County.
the levy
Jones
is
County's doing it
legal.
right now.
The levy is legal. It's whether we can do per capita is the question, and we'll go for a bill for it. And be a collecting agency.
Little bit of homework 3 weeks from now.
So, but that being said, we're much smarter. But we also have it on our agenda, so we're gonna have to either table this further discussion. I mean, the plan is to set up another workshop or another work session to discuss further. When we gather, as we gather more information.
I make a motion to table this until our November 12th.
Do we have to table it? Can we just say,
I don't
let's
think
just,
you need to, because I mean, I don't think you need to formally table it.
Okay.
I would just say, let's just schedule next
Because it's
session. at the-
discussion and possible action. It
It
didn't
doesn't
say
say-
we're making an action.
That's right.
Right,
I don't-
I would just say, yeah, just, I would second, our next meeting will be the 12th.
So the 12th will be the same day as the canvas, so hopefully.
So let's just do that. Let's just, from here on, have it on the agenda.
We'll have another discussion at some point. I think we need to get with Nathan at Mullers and Clean. Probably I need to do a little more research. I'll get with Bob. I need to.
Maybe we need to go.
Well, so I think when we kind of get to a point, hopefully we don't have too much in between, but we can come back to the board with maybe some more information.
Try to bring it back sometime in a November meeting
Okay, I think that's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
week after election.
or two.
Yes, sometime in November.
We still got
Some
to,
week
we
after
still have to
election.
canvas after.
And hopefully we don't have a recount. I mean, there's just some things that could happen, but we don't want to happen, but if it does happen, we have to be able to. Yeah. If it happens, it happens.
Cool.
Yeah.
Motion adjourned.
I'll second that.
The motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. Motion carried, meeting adjourned.